I wasn't focusing on my future. I was just kind of enjoying what was happening. But then I sat down and started realizing I'm financially not going to make it with this degree program. And the journalism class was extremely strict and super informative, and I really am glad I took it. And I didn't want to quit that class. Even though I was having some times of getting sick, just a bad immune system, I wanted to finish that class. And so during that time, my now wife was talking about, hey, I want to see if I, want to try out for the Disney College program. And I was like, sure, you should absolutely try out for it. She got accepted into it. I mean, I was over the moon for her. Her family was. Everyone was so supportive of her that she was going to go in the spring of 2019. But I realized I have no real direction where I'm going right now with my school, because I hadn't really had a direction since I graduated with my associate degree. I was wanting to try things, why not give it the good old college try? In reality, I didn't know exactly where I wanted to go. And so I decided to move back home, get out of my apartment situation because it was not great. I wasn't able to make a full-time living. I had that contract job, but it ran out. I had a mutual friend through my then girlfriend, now wife, that I could work at a pizza shop, and I enjoyed that, but it only paid my bills to a certain degree. I was barely scraping by because my apartment was, $400 a month, which was really affordable, because I'm sharing with 3 other people, and I have my own room, but it's not going to last me, and I need to be able to manage my finances. So I moved back home. I was in debt. I was able to break my lease because of the concerns that I brought up. They said, fine, we'll let you go. I was able to break my contract. Somebody else was able to take my place. It was great. God moved in that area because, that fall I had a good time. I was spending time with friends. I was going to see movies like Venom or Once Upon a Deadpool, and just, being able to do things. It wasn't an entirely miserable fall, but I just remember just feeling low. I remember one of the best moments was I was studying for my final exam as well as my final paper that I was writing on. And my parents sent me a gift box, and I remember getting a Lego set, some snacks, and it really encouraged me that things are going to get better. And it really did. When I moved back home in 2019, after taking my final exam in December, packing up my whole car and just, walking all across campus to Lloyd Noble, driving my car, driving it to Stroud, get a late night dinner, drive home. It was a new life. Beginning of the year, I thought I was going to go one direction. It wound up being another. The album Origins by Imagine Dragons was the soundtrack for everything that was going to change my life. I had met with this guy in September about video production. He lived in Tulsa, and I was like, okay, well, maybe he's a good contact or whatnot. When I moved back to Tulsa, I just started applying left and right to different jobs, and I got a job offer at a movie theater that somebody recommended that, hey, why not? You're in the movie space. Why not try to work in a movie theater? And I was like, okay, I'll see if I can find a good movie theater that would, be open to applications. And so I said distinctively, I prayed that if, I do get this job and they offer me 12 hours right off the bat, that I won't take it. So I walked into a movie theater, got offered a job on the spot, and my first offer was 12 hours. And that same day, I got a call back from the company in which I applied with. I dropped off my resume and also had that contact who I met with in September. And they offered me a job the day later. And the rest is history. That was the longest job that I was ever at. It was an amazing video production company. I started as a video logger and then eventually moved myself into a media manager. I got to travel to a couple of events and then eventually get an associate director position and then associate editor and then a full-time editor position. And this was all during the pandemic. I was the only contractor logger to be able to be kept on fully through that. And I remember a year before, I was just struggling to pay my rent and going into debt with my class and trying to figure out how to pay off that. But I was able to eventually get everything turned around, and God was so great that I was able to even get a paid trip to Branson and in Arkansas. And all these things were happening. The pandemic just really took my career path in a different direction. I thought it tanked my career at some points, but no, it didn't. It really brought me into a new space of realizing that I was kept on for a reason and I was given these positions for a reason. And I learned from so many great production people. Yes, there were circumstances that weren't great. There was confrontations where one of my friends got chewed out by one of our producers, and it really hurt me because he was my friend and I encouraged him, hey, put in some more work and more effort and things will get better. And then you get chewed out like that after. It devastates you. And there was moments in my job where hey, you need to step up. And then sometimes I step over the line and I may say something that's not my job description. I had privately emailed one of our producers who I brought up some concerns and said, hey, if you're not going to change in a direction, I won't work with you. And it blew up in my face. And then soon after, I got gaslit at a meeting because I said, hey, we're going to have this sandbox meeting, this creative meeting. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, we'll be a part of this creative meeting. And I brought up some interesting tactics of how we could handle these new shows that were coming out. And I just remember afterwards getting recommended my producer, like, hey, that meeting was kind of a waste of time because people really didn't like that. You were too formal and your presentation was too regimented. And I mean, it was good, but it was just, that's not what we're about. And I just remember feeling devastated because I was like, I wanted to put my best foot forward. And people are talking behind my back because people don't know how to communicate in that sense, because that's what a sandbox meeting is. And then I said, but that's what a sandbox meeting is. He's like, what does the sandbox even mean? I'm like, you literally greenlit a meeting that you didn't even know the exact thesis of it. Our communication was so rough during the pandemic. And that was one of the reasons why I left my position. People may say that I got burned out. I did not get burned out. I felt like I became a joke because I had screened down so many shows, and I loved screening down shows because we got to do them together. It was the same thing as movies. Why I became a movie person, why I loved watching the Avengers movies or Lord of the Rings, because it's you get to be involved with something. And so for me, being in those positions, the reason why I did this was because if I do better at my job, I get promotions. And if I get promotions, then eventually I'm going to have different jurisdictions to be able to, hey, I could do stuff in Hollywood eventually someday if I keep working hard and keep doing stuff with production and taking initiative on things. I really hope you enjoyed this part of my story. Below in the description, I have some more stories that I wasn't able to share in my testimony. I filmed this on September 30th after getting about 4 hours of sleep, so I left out quite a bit throughout each part, but hopefully those will fill in the gaps, and they might create some prompts for some questions that you can ask with some friends or loved ones. I hope you enjoy this, and can't wait for you to watch the next part.